Rick Harrison just paid $20,000 for a weapon that looks like a movie prop. It's heavy, it's weird, and for 100 years, it was completely forgotten. But this isn't a prop. This is the Bira Gun. It was built by a tragic genius who wanted his little kingdom to be able to stand against the might of the British Empire. He was a man who built a military lab to haul his country into the modern age. So, how did this lost piece of history end up in a Las Vegas pawn shop? To understand why Rick paid $20,000 for it, you have to know the story of the man who invented it, and you have to see the lost royal hoard where it was found. Let's be honest, the Bira Gun looks shocking. It doesn't look like a precise European weapon. It looks like a blacksmith's nightmare. This is the big mystery. Why does a $20,000 treasure look like a prop from a Mad Max movie? The answer is simple. It was made by hand. This gun was born in 19th century Nepal. At that time, Nepal was completely cut off from the modern world. They didn't have big factories. They didn't have precise steel machines. So, they couldn't cut the gun from a block of steel. Instead, they melted iron and bronze. They poured the liquid metal into sand molds. It's the same way you make a church bell or a statue. Then, craftsmen filed down every piece by hand to make it fit. Because of this, no two guns are the same. A screw from the first gun won't fit into the second gun. This dungeon-made look tricks people. It looks like a primitive shell, but inside, it hides a brilliant idea. And to understand that idea, you have to meet the man who designed it. Behind the crude metal is the mind of one man. His name was General Gahendra Shumsher. He is known as the first scientist of Nepal. He was born into royalty in 1871. His father was the prime minister and the real ruler of the country. This gave Gahendra money and power. But he had a huge problem. The British Empire ruled neighboring India. The British had a strict rule: no modern weapons for Nepal. They wanted to keep Nepal weak. They didn't want the fierce Gurkha army to be a threat. Gahendra refused to accept this. He loved Western technology. He read every manual he could find. He decided to break the British blockade. He built a secret workshop inside the palace grounds. It was a skunkworks operation. He wasn't just playing around. This was about national security. He built his own version of the British rifle. He tried to build a car and a steam engine from scratch. He was desperate to drag his country into the modern age. And his biggest goal was to build Nepal's first machine gun. He named it the Bira, after the king. He had the brains, he had the money, but he also had a massive problem sitting in the palace arsenal. Gahendra's problem wasn't ideas, it was ammo. Nepal had millions of rounds of British ammunition. It was called the .577/450 Martini Henry. These bullets were huge. They were powerful, but they were old technology. They used black powder, which created a ton of smoke and dirt. They were made for single-shot rifles, not machine guns, but Gahendra had to use them, so he got creative. He managed to smuggle an American Gardner gun into Nepal. The Gardner was an old hand-cranked machine gun. Gahendra used it as a starting point, but he couldn't just copy it. The British gun couldn't handle the Nepali bullets, so he reinvented it. He created the Bira Gun. It had 2 barrels and a heavy hand crank. But the craziest part was the magazine. He designed a huge, flat, circular pan. It sat on top of the gun like a dinner plate. It held 120 rounds. That was double what most British guns held. As you turned the crank, the plate spun. Gravity dropped the heavy bullets into the barrels. It was a brilliant piece of engineering, but it was born too late. The Bira Gun was finished around 1896. By then, beyond the mountainous borders, the world had already changed. A man named Hiram Maxim had invented the automatic machine gun. The Maxim gun fired 600 rounds per minute. It used new smokeless powder so you could see the battlefield. The Bira Gun was the opposite. It was slow, it was heavy, it made clouds of smoke. It was outdated the moment it was finished. And sadly, the inventor's story ended just like the guns, abruptly. In 1906, General Gahendra died. He was only 34 years old. His death was sudden. Many historians think he was murdered. They suspect his own family poisoned him. They were afraid of his intelligence. They saw him as a threat to their power. When Gahendra died, Nepal's technology died with him. His workshop was closed. His inventions were forgotten. The Bira guns were orphans. They were too heavy to carry up the mountains. They were too old to fight the British, so they were never used in battle. Instead, they were locked away. Soldiers dragged them into the Lagan Silicana Palace arsenal. They coated the guns in a thick mix of animal fat and grease to protect them. Then they shut the doors. The guns became a time capsule. For 100 years, they sat in the dark, waiting. For a century, the Bira gun was a myth. Most historians didn't even know it existed. Then, in 2003, everything changed. The doors to the Lagan Silicana Palace were opened. The explorers couldn't believe their eyes. It wasn't just a room, it was a massive building. And it was filled, floor to ceiling, with weapons. Over 50,000 antique guns were stacked like firewood. They had been untouched for 100 years. The smell of old grease was thick in the air, and buried under piles of muskets, they found the Bira guns. They were exactly where Gahendra left them. A US company bought the entire hoard. It was the largest antique arms deal in history. Moving them was a nightmare. The guns were still covered in that 100-year-old sticky grease. They had to load 300 trucks. They drove them down dangerous mountain roads to get them out of Nepal. This discovery released the Bira gun back into the world. That is how a lost gun ended up in a Las Vegas pawn shop. And that brings us to the $20,000 deal. Rick Harrison is a smart guy, but when he saw the Bira gun, he was baffled. It looked like a fake prop. He knew he needed help. This deal happens in 3 perfect steps. Step 1. Is it legal? Rick calls in Mark Hall Patton. Rick was worried. If the gun was made after 1898, it's a modern machine gun. He can't buy that without a special license. Mark checks the gun. He confirms it was made in 1896. It is a legal antique. Rick is safe to buy. Step 2. Is it valuable? Rick takes the gun to the desert. He calls in Alex, his gun expert. Alex explains the real story. He explains how Gahendra smuggled the design and built it by hand. He tells Rick the gun is worth a whopping $27,500. Step 3. Does it work? This is the final test. They load the massive bullets into the Pan magazine. They turn the crank. Bang, bang, bang. It works perfectly. It's not a prop. It's a beast. Rick is giddy. He calls it one of the coolest guns he has ever seen. He has the legal proof. He has the value. He knows it works. He offers $20,000 cash. The seller agrees. The deal is done. So, after a 100-year journey, the Bira gun is the perfect story. It asks a simple question. What do you see? Do you see the history? A man who tried to modernize his country with his bare hands. Rick Harrison did. He bought the story, and it was a good bet. Today, collectors will pay well over $20,000 for one of these rare guns. The Bira gun is the ultimate proof of our mission. Its value isn't in the metal, it's in the journey. And that's why we're treasure trackers.